Squid Game is a show that I watched recently because it's very popular right now. Everywhere I go, they're talking about Squid Game this, Squid Game that. How about you stop being a little squid and get some game and talk to people of the opposite gender? The story is actually really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's very simple to understand, and the characters are likable and well developed with some neat twists here and there. Even though this is my first K-drama, I'm a fan of contemporary Korean cinema, as they've been consistently putting out a lot of great movies that reach international audiences for quite a while now. But you know what Squid Game reminds me of? Wait for it. Society.
You don't seem to understand that there are skills that CSGO teaches you that school just can't.
Yes. Society, the place that we live. But first, I wanted to talk about the fun ensemble of characters. The poor guy that's empathetic to random strangers even though he's neglecting his own daughter. The ruthless capitalist. Sex appeal. Lesbian appeal. Dementia. The emergency minority character that critics will rave at because of diversity or whatever. Bonnie. Clyde. Kylo Ren. It seems that all the characters actually have a purpose to them to showcase the different sides of the poor that the director is trying to represent. One of my favorite characters is actually the migrant worker named Ali, who comes from Pakistan to slave away at these factories. I mentioned this idea briefly in my Why I Penis Sink video about how people from South Asia are brutally abused by countries for cheap labor. For example, Qatar is supposed to hold the 2022 World Cup, and in an effort to build stadiums for it, it hired many workers from South Asia. 6,500 people have been reported to die while building these stadiums, one of which is Gal Singh Rai from Nepal, who paid £1,000 just to have the opportunity to work at the stadium. Within a week of arriving, he killed himself. There was another worker, Mohammed Shahid Mia from Bangladesh, who was electrocuted in his workers' accommodation after water came in contact with exposed electricity cables. In India, the family of Madhu Bolapalli have never understood how their healthy 43-year-old son died of natural causes while working in Qatar. His body was found lying on the dorm room floor. The mighty stadiums of the new first world economies that are going to televise the greatest athletes in the world are being built by migrant workers that get treated like slaves. No, they're not treated like slaves, they actually are. You know, it's pretty grim and depressing seeing people in the 21st century be treated like this in countries with thriving economies and development. But then I realized that the World Cup is this time next year, and everyone, including me, is going to be screaming, "It's coming home, it's coming home!" And we're all going to forget about it, so yeah. Wait, what was this video about again? Regardless, Ali is a pretty interesting character and a good representation of migrant workers not only in South Korea, but other parts of the world as well. I'm glad that his character was added, because to me, you can't really criticize capitalism in storytelling without discussing the people that don't even get to live because of it. And it seems like his character actually adds a unique element to the story that I haven't really seen before. I think this cast is a lot stronger than most death game media I've ever seen. And speaking of death game media, I've seen a lot of people try to discredit this show because its lack of originality. Now, I might be different from you the way I see it, but the death game trope in media is pretty much its own genre. So the people trying to discredit the show because the concept has been done before is funny because it's dumb and you're stupid. Americans were saying that this show was a ripoff of the Hunger Games, even though the author started writing it in 2008, and once that was debunked, people were saying that this ripped off Battle Royale, which is a really good Japanese movie. Originality doesn't really exist anymore in pretty much anything. Something is always going to be inspired by something else, and something will always be similar to another. That doesn't necessarily make whatever is being made garbage. Originality isn't the only factor that makes something worthwhile or interesting. There's a lot of ideas that Squid Game brings forward that makes it interesting to watch regardless of how original the concept is. And while people try to discuss Hunger Games or Kaiji or whatever the Squid Game ripped off, the genre is dated back to a book published in 1924 called The Most Dangerous Game, which is about a hunter that deliberately strands a group of luxury yacht passengers on a remote island where he can hunt them for sport. So technically, scientifically, expeditiously, everything that has come since this that features the game of life and death genre ripped this off. This leads to my final question of why Squid Game is the one that took off, the one that blew up and became the #1 show on Netflix of all time. The answer to me is pretty simple, actually. The biggest reason to me Squid Game is so popular is because it's incredibly relatable and incredibly easy to follow. Now, I don't want to compare Squid Game to Parasite by Bong Joon-ho just because they're Korean and talk about society and stuff, but Bong Joon-ho said it best when his movie, which has a similar theme to Squid Game, got huge international success in 2019.
왜냐하면 우리가 하나의 나라에서 살고 있다. 지금 하나의 거대한 나라, 자본주의라는 나라인 거죠. 그래서
both of these things are the product of South Korean society, but that applies to literally every other capitalist country as well. It's just the filmmakers of countries like South Korea are actually discussing these issues instead of hiding behind the elitism of Hollywood. You know, being poor or economically disadvantaged is one of the most relatable things to hook an audience in, regardless of genre, because it's a worldwide issue. The reality is most people are either poor or underpaid, so it's incredibly easy to relate to that because it's pretty much become a part of the human condition. Ah, look at me trying to sound deep. The reason it's popular, the reason Squid Game is popular is because of her. It's her, it's her, it's that simple. It's her. Just get a fire-ass model on your movie and you're straight. It's her, it's her. I need a girlfriend. Overall, I enjoyed Squid Game. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece because there's a few things that just I disliked. Like the English VIP people. Why do they talk like they're dubbing Korean? I don't know. I feel like that whole thing was kind of weird. But it's an enjoyable show. I'm glad that it's getting a lot of attention. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about is the conception of the series itself. I saw this tweet on MySpace. Squid Game creator Hwang Dong-hyuk wrote the show in 2009 but was rejected by studios for 10 years. He once had to stop writing the script to sell his $675 laptop due to money struggles. Today, it's #1 in 90 countries and is set to become the most watched show in Netflix history. This tweet has 600,000 likes, but it made me think, over 12 years of planning to get this series greenlit, and the only reason it got greenlit was because of the fact that Netflix wanted more influence in Asia. People are treating this as like an underdog story like Pursuit of Happiness or something, but what I saw is that there's so many people that are in the same position as the creator that will never get this opportunity. The director apparently got paid a flat rate, which means that the international success and the huge money that this series is bringing in, he probably won't even get a single cent off of, and he lost like 5 teeth as well. You can look at this series as success from perseverance and getting better through failure, but to me, it's a reflection on a system that's ran by a select few individuals that exploit working people that are more talented than them, have more drive, but because of certain circumstances, they can't succeed without them. So I guess the real lesson of Squid Game is that we live in a society.